In 2004, a man would go on a rampage in Granby, Colorado in a strange armoured vehicle, which would later become known as the Killdozer. Great name, by the way. I think I'm going to give the same title to my little Nissan. Beep beep. Despite continued attempts, police were unable to stop him, and the town was completely at his mercy. But why would anybody do such a thing? Where did he get this contraption? Whatever happened to him? His name was Marvin Heemeyer, and he's become somewhat of a hero in some people's eyes. A reasonable man driven to do unreasonable things, which is just like me.
Okay, yeah. Who drives a man to build a tank, though?
The person walking in front of me is too slow and takes up the whole path, and Jesus fucking...
What, buddy? Society? So he's the Joker?
Fucking Christ, you fat fuck, get out of my way. Marvin Heemeyer moved to Colorado sometime in the 90s or earlier, which was somewhat strange as he was in his 40s.
Ballin has a video on this? Oh, well that, nah, nah. No, I want like the full on story. This one has the most views. I want to see this one. This is Discovery Channel. Am I going to get claimed here? Is this claimed? It's not claimed. Okay.
Then another. And another. It's part of a meticulously planned citywide demolition project.
And what like the bulldozer went crazy.
But this plan wasn't put together by city engineers or construction workers.
Just received a 911 call reporting that there is an out-of-control bulldozer.
It's the brainchild of an angry man with a grudge against a lot of local people and businesses.
They can't tell who's driving it, but there is someone inside.
Holy shit.
The man inside this armor-plated bulldozer is Marv Heemeyer. As horrified townspeople run for their lives, Heemeyer wrecks buildings and vehicles one after another.
But why?
And he's ready to take on sheriff's deputies or anybody else who stands in his way.
But why?
Heemeyer's an accomplished welder who spent a lot of time inside a secret workshop.
Yeah, it's all encased in metal, and you can't see who's driving or anything.
There, he outfitted the dozer with 2 sheets of half-inch steel plating, with a layer of concrete in between.
God damn.
On this day, he seals himself in and takes off on a violent ride. Inside his cockpit, 2 assault rifles, lots of ammo, and video monitors to help him see where he's going. A bank, a hardware store, a concrete
but why?
factory,
Holy
even the town
shit.
hall, and especially the police department.
Oh my god.
The one thing all of those places have in common, Heemeyer feels he has been wronged by these businesses or the people who own them. He even exacts revenge on the home of the town's former mayor.
He does have armor-piercing weaponry.
Deputies and SWAT teams try everything. But even armor-piercing bullets can't penetrate Marv Heemeyer's homemade metal and concrete shield.
Dude, he's probably in there listening to smooth jazz right now. Like just sipping some tea, destroying the town, getting shot at. Just, this is delicious. Delicious Earl Grey.
If you want to try to box him in.
At one point, a heavy equipment operator decides to put a stop to the carnage. He climbs behind the wheel of his front-end loader and gets set to take on the armored bulldozer.
It's like battle bots.
The operator finds himself in an industrial-sized game of chicken. Heemeyer speeds ahead, aiming directly for the blockage. Realizing his intentions, the loader attempts to flee, but the armored dozer gives chase.
Damn!
Path, it steams ahead
Holy
to its next target.
shit!
Authorities seize the narrow.
Yeah, honestly, why isn't this an anime? This literally would be an
using the
anime.
front loader truck to block the dozer in. The civilian operator hurries to safety. Forced to continue ahead, Heemeyer pushes his creation to the limit.
Dear Lord!
The bulldozer grinds to a halt under the rubble of a steel building. Its engine has called it quits. As authorities try to get into the cab of his homemade tank, Marv Heemeyer takes his own life. It takes officers several hours and a cutting torch to finally get inside the cab. None of the townspeople are hurt, but the price tag on this rampage is about $7 million.
Okay, you didn't tell me why he did it! Chat, why did he do it?
A man would set up his business in a small town in Colorado. But when neighbouring companies and the town's council turned against him, he would get his revenge in the most imaginative way possible. My name is Adrian, and welcome back to Coffee House Crime. Have you heard of Killdozer? The engineer in me is screaming to cover this case, and so it had to be done. I don't recommend you trying this at home. So pull up a seat, grab a coffee, and sit back.
The town's
This is the case
But
of
how
Killdozer.
is what I want to know. That's why I want to watch this. I want to see. How? Why?
Vivid landscapes, mountains, forests, and canyons. These are a few of the geographical characteristics used to describe Colorado, one of America's mountain states. And our case today takes us 75 miles northwest of Colorado's capital, Denver, to Grand Lake. Grand Lake is a tiny town with a small population of only 506 residents in 2019. A crowd small enough to pin John Heemeyer. Marvin was born on the 28th of October in the year of 1990.
Let's move on to the actual, like, why he did it.
1992, Marvin bought 2 acres of land next to West Meadow Road, located in Granby, not far from his home in Grand Lake. He purchased the land from the Resolution Trust Corp for $42,000, which back then was most of his money. And with the space, he planned to open up his very own business. After retiring from the United States Air Force in 1969, Marvin found his true calling as a skilled welder. With the US Air Force teaching him to take initiative in situations and control his own life, he didn't feel like working for someone else. And so in the year of 1992, he left his job as a mechanic and opened up his own muffler shop on the patch of land that
Don't
he had
skip
just
the
bought.
anime training arc.
For those first few years, things were going relatively well for Marvin. Not only had his business survived the early stages in life, but on top of that, he was becoming the best-known welder in town. He even expanded his services out into cosmetic repair.
Basically,
But shortly
town,
before the year 2000, long shadows started to cast over Marvin's business. There were reports trickling in that the large patch of unused land next to the muffler shop was being eyed up by the Dotchev family, who wanted to create a concrete batch plant on the land.
So someone just destroyed his business.
This was a problem
basically?
for Marvin. Not only had he outbid Cody for the land several years prior, which started a feud between the two, but now the concrete plant would cut him off from his own business in multiple ways. For many years he had used the targeted land as a road to get to his muffler shop, and the proposed cement plant would entirely block that access. Eventually, the Dotcher family got in contact with Marvin. Conversations between the two parties started, were long, and even at times hair-splitting. But at one point it seemed that everyone had come to an agreement. It was alleged that Cody and Marvin agreed that Marvin would sell his property for $250,000, almost 6 times what he'd paid for back in 1992. However, after agreement, Marvin immediately changed his mind. He upped his price from $250,000 to $375,000.
Ooh.
Cody agreed. But after that agreement,
Okay.
Marvin once again upped his price to $1 million.
Whoa!
Communication broke down and eventually fell silent. And
Why
then,
not
in
just take the
2001, after more
400,000?
bureaucracy, both the zoning commission and the town's trustees approved the construction of the cement manufacturing plant, without Marvin's consent. Marvin was furious. He hadn't yet settled on an agreement with the Dotchefs, and now in a matter of weeks, he would have no access to his own business either. He appealed the town's decision, pumping as much as $150,000 into his efforts with an attorney. But despite this, he was unsuccessful.
Yeah.
He
Yeah, right now it just sounds like he screwed himself over.
even tried petitioning the problem to friends and residents of the town. But just like his appeal before, no dice. And Marvin's luck was only going to get worse. At first, he tried to play fair by petitioning the construction of a new road leading to his business around the concrete factory. He had even bought himself a bulldozer so he could do all of this work himself.
There it is, chat!
This, however, was formally rejected by the Granby government.
There's the dozer!
He now had no way to get to his property. To rub salt in the wounds, only days later, the Granby government fined Marvin over $2,500 for what they quoted as various violations. This included keeping junk cars on the property, which was part of his business, and also not being hooked up to the sewer line. And this was also despite the government previously cutting off his utilities to make way for the construction of the concrete plant. And as for the sewage line, now Marvin would have to ask Cody for permission to run a pipe underneath the concrete plant, something that Cody was sure to decline.
Wow.
Marvin was in despair. To put the situation bluntly, he had been shafted, not only by the new company, but by his local council too. Mentally, he was at the end of his rope, and his business, along with all the money he had invested into it, was about to go bust. One night on his balcony, through desperation, Marvin then created a cunning plan. One that would, however, have to remain top secret.
How did that miss?
He began leasing his workshop to a trash company, and several months later, ended up selling the property altogether for $400,000. During this time in 2003, the new owners gave Marvin several months to leave, and it was during those months that he began working on his top secret project. The bulldozer that Marvin had just bought about a year and a half ago to assist in the cooperation with his council and new neighbours was doing nothing but gathering dust. Not just that, but it just about fit into his garage too. By an inch, in fact. Marvin saw this as a sign from God. Despite trying to get rid of both his building and his bulldozer, he had both. So what did that mean? To quote Marvin during his time of despair,
I hope that the people of Granby learn that the way you punished me over the years that I was down there, and how you punished me, for the most part turned me into a desperate man. And desperate men do desperate things to recover a lot of times.
Marvin's secret plans took about a year and a half.
This is literally like a Joker arc. Like, holy shit.
To prepare. He spent all of 2003 through to mid-2004 modifying his Komatsu bulldozer into a fully armoured vehicle of power and destruction. He even set up a temporary home in his workshop to cover his basic needs. He would sleep in the day and worked in the night, not to disturb his concrete-loving neighbours. And while he worked, he secluded himself, ruminating on his unfortunate events and scheming of ways to get back at his enemies. He even recorded his hatred for them all. And on June the 4th, 2004, those plans would finally be realised.
Here it is, guys. The legend.
Marvin started his rampage by smashing through the wall of his very own business and driving his abomination bulldozer directly across his land into his rival's concrete plant. And there, as Cody and his workers watched in shock and awe, he destroyed 2 of their buildings before slowly trundling down the highway.
He destroyed that, holy shit.
By now, police were already hot on his tail, firing multiple shotgun and M4 rounds at the Killdozer. But this was to no avail. He smashed into Mountain Park's electric, destroying its front facade. Maple Street builders were next, and when the building was...
Yeah, it's like one of those things where you can't really hate him, you know? You can't really hate him for this. You can't. Like, I mean, it's literally you pissed off the wrong guy. That's all this is you pissed off the wrong guy. Dude, yeah, he could have become Iron Man. He built the Killdozer in a shop with a box of scraps. That's what he did.
Compared next to his machine of destruction, it didn't stand a chance. Once he'd muscled his bulldozer through their front, Marvin redirected his machine. By now, 911 calls were flurrying in, and additional cops coming in to fight Killdozer wouldn't have to look hard for him either, because he was headed straight for their headquarters. And soon, SWAT teams were on his tail too. In a matter of minutes, both the town hall and the police station of Granby were obliterated.
God damn.
And despite the enormous
Dude,
damage...
that's the best part, is the fact that nobody got hurt, but it was only property damage. Dude, he had guns. That's what I'm kind of like, what were the guns for? Like, he had, like, multiple guns, but he didn't kill anybody.
Inflicted to both buildings, just like all incidents before, no one was harmed or killed. Liberty Savings Bank was next on the list. And soon after Liberty Bank, Sky High News got it too. Residents in the area were evacuated, and in a state of full-on emergency, police and SWAT made every effort to disable the Killdozer.
Damn.
But resistance was futile. In places, the bulldozer's armor was over 1 foot thick.
Well, I feel like the reason no
sandwiched...
one got hurt is because the bulldozer's so goddamn slow, people can just outrun it. You know? Or, I mean, at least he was driving so slow that people could just outrun it.
Between thick layers of tall steel. Attempts to disable Marvin's cameras with gunfire failed
imagine
too.
the shit he could have made.
Police bullets were unable to penetrate its 3-inch bulletproof plastic. Marvin had even lined a tank of compressed air to various outlets near the cameras to clear them from any dust and debris. Killdozer had also been equipped with 3 gun ports, including a Ruger Mini 14, an FN-FNC, and a Barrett M82. All 3 were used against police, SWAT, and even Cody, but luckily, no one was hit. Killdozer then detours down a dirt road and attempted
trying to hit people.
To cause serious destruction to the area by taking out a pile of propane tanks. He fired several rounds at the tanks, but luckily the skilled engineer Marvin Heemeyer made a design mistake. The port's design tolerances which allowed his gun to peek out from the steel armor was too small, meaning that when firing his gun at an angle, his rounds would actually fire into his own armor, stopping the bullets from hitting the propane tank and causing chaos. Defeated in his action, he drove back up the hill towards copycat printing. A man operating a scraper machine stepped up to the challenge in a 1v1. But as Killdozer rampaged towards him, he chickened out, eventually getting shunted out of the way by Marvin. It was during his annihilation of the copycat printing company that Killdozer's antifreeze lines blew, and his machine started to smoke. No worries, he thought. He continued to punch into the newspaper company that had allegedly reported against him and ridiculed him numerous times. Gambles was next, but by the time he had started digging into the building's side, a construction worker in a front loader had caught up with Marvin and blocked his only exit out. Killdozer's power slowly begins to fail at this point, and with his rear blocked, Marvin has no choice but to carry on forwards.
They just pissed off the wrong guy. That's all I was trying to say. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to know. I just wanted to know his coming of age story. You know, his evolution.
Now it's time to walk away. I hope you enjoyed your stay. Did you laugh or cry or maybe subscribed? I'll thank you either way. You know I will miss you. I hope you return. Tell your friend or your mother to get me more views, please.